Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you're willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. You guys are the best, you're awesome, and I really do appreciate you. For those of you that are unaware, I review everything that has just been released on Netflix. So if you're ever curious about whether something is good, bad, or completely mediocre, come to my channel and I'll let you know. So guys, subscribe to my channel, get engaged, because I want to be your go-to Netflix guy. And today we're going to be talking about Thunder Force. And you have no idea how I've had to train my brain to say Thunder Force and not Thunderstruck or Thunderbirds, because the whole time I was doing research on this movie, I kept typing in the wrong thing. So hopefully throughout this review, I just remember Thunder Force. It is Thunder Force. But ultimately, Thunder Force takes place in a parallel universe to our own. In this universe, a meteorite hit the Earth and gave a select few humans powers. And these humans that have powers have now been known as miscreants, and they generally take on a rather evil persona. Majority of them are just delinquents who cause crimes. There's never been a good miscreant, and that's where our dynamic duo comes into play. Ultimately, they've had enough of living in a world run by criminals, run by these superpowered criminals, and so they decide we are going to become a superhero team, and that's what they do. They ultimately become the crime-fighting duo Thunder Force. And I'll let you guys know this. This was actually an enjoyable movie. I know a lot of people recently have become very disenfranchised with Melissa McCarthy and her comedies. Ghostbusters was a big one. People actively hated that film. I know tons of people that boycotted this film. And so I have to say, I think she's on a path to redeeming herself, especially with this movie. While this movie had a lot of the elements that people might not necessarily enjoy, there were a lot of feminist-themed jokes or politically correct comments. This film never leaned too heavily into them. This never felt like a film that was preaching to you. It had woke elements, but they were never shoved down your throat. And I've got to give massive props to the scriptwriters and the directors and the team behind this film for doing that. Because I feel like we're in a world now where we can understand why it's important to have politically correct messaging in our films, but we don't want a film for politically correct messaging's sake. We want a good story that has elements of political correctness. And that's a very delicate balance. And I think this film did that really well. Performances, I also agree, across the board were really good. I flipping loved, I'm going to sing Melissa McCarthy's praise because she was also really funny in this role. She stole the movie. She was brilliant, she was charismatic, she was funny. And actually what's great about this movie is that she didn't outshine the rest of the cast. The rest of the cast really held their own weight, and they made the entire movie enjoyable because everybody had a moment to shine. Everybody had funny jokes. What's great is that this wasn't a Melissa McCarthy vehicle, and what I mean by that is this wasn't just a movie to go, look how funny Melissa McCarthy is. No, she was funny, and every other character was funny as well. Everyone else had their own moments, which was really great and really exciting to watch. Another thing I really enjoyed about this movie were the visual effects. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a visual effects heavy movie, but with any movie that has superpowers, you're going to have to put in unrealistic elements. You're going to have to put in CG. You're going to have to put in visual effects simply because you're dealing with the otherworldly. And even though this film had some really awesome, cool set pieces, it never felt like any of the visual effects we were witnessing were necessarily fake or hammy, which I thought is great. I will say this, if you're expecting a superhero film that's action heavy, you're not going to get this. Of course, this film was marketed as a comedy, and so the comedy does come first. I will also say I don't necessarily believe the comedy always lands, but there were some genuinely funny moments. And what's also great is it was intelligent comedy. There were never any fart jokes for the sake of fart jokes. There were never any just grotesque humor. It's not, oh, it's funny because it's disturbing. It was actual genuine humor. And very rarely was at the expense of someone else. I would say probably the laziest joke was probably my favorite joke, and that's about eating raw chicken. And it's just because Melissa McCarthy did a great job in her performances as her character had to eat raw chicken because of her new powers that just negatively affected her body in that way. But sure guys, at the end of the day, who would I recommend this film to? I would recommend this film to anyone that's a fan of superhero movies. You've probably seen majority of the elements used in this film before. This is a very paint by numbers superhero movie, but it is still enjoyable thanks in large part to the strong performances given by our lead characters. I would also recommend this to any fan of just general comedies. I see anyone that enjoys a good comedy film enjoying this movie. Guys, thank you so much. You're awesome. You're the best. Subscribe if you haven't, like this video, and I can't wait to see you again in another review.